A very good afternoon to you, Rufus. Well, there's a lot happening when you look at the telecommunication space there in Kenya. We had counterfeit cell phones being switched off last night, and we're also looking at reduction in mobile termination rates. So what does this all mean for the sector going forward?
Well, that means, one, there's going to be a lot of readjustments within the different operators in that market segment. And what the market is really focusing on is the big player, Safaricom, that controls about 75% of the market. Because, like you said, when the mobile termination rates start falling down, it's one that is going to get the biggest hit. Actually, it's been researched and approved that the biggest gainers when the rates start falling down, actually the four other rivals are competing with Safaricom. So I guess we're likely to see a bit of shifting in terms of market strategy, in terms of even staff, moving from one place to another. But more importantly is to see how it's going to affect on the profitability across the board. And going forward, seeing even how it's going to impact on even on the market share of all the different players. So I think it's going to be an interesting time to come.
Interesting time to come. Looking at Kenyan plans to boost geothermal power production going forward. We know the need of power production over in there in Kenya. With all these new ventures that Kenyan is taking up, what kind of profitability can we see coming through for the company going forward?
Well, we think that it's going to have a positive impact on its profitability, and this view is based on the fact that just looking at its full year results that came out last week, the biggest driver of its profit was actually mainly from the two power plants that they commissioned last year. Actually, last half, the beginning half of 2011. So we believe that the power plants that they want to invest in as a joint venture, we think it's going to have the same effect on its profitability. So I think from an investor point of view, it's a safe stock to get into. We think that it's going to be a good return. It's going to bring a good return for investors there.
Looking at the banking sector right now, there's lots of rights issues going ahead. We have Standard Chartered due to come up with its rights issue mid this month, and we had NIC Bank and DTB Bank coming out with their rights issues, and they were both oversubscribed. What kind of movement can we see coming through for Standard Chartered?
Well, for Standard Chartered is an interesting rights issue because, well, not really interesting because sort of similar with the other bank rights issue, because they have put the success threshold at 73%, which is the same shareholding that its mother company, Standard Chartered PLC, that owns. So I guess with a 73% success rate, if you may call it that way, then we see it, we can call it a success already, because what that means is it's only looking for 26% of that money they want to raise from the market. So I guess we are likely to see it going the way of NIC issue in terms of getting an oversubscription.
Where are you putting your money in right now when you look at the banking sector?
Sorry?
Which stocks are you putting your money into right now when you look at the overall banking sector?
Well, personally, or should I say our house view, we think Standard Chartered is best placed, and also also NIC Bank, because we've looked at their information memorandum, and we think that their strategy going forward in terms of their expansion, the investment in technology, and even their partnerships with other strategic partners, we think that they are best placed to get more dividends from an investor point of view. So I think for those two particular stocks in that industry, we think they're best placed to reap good dividends for investors.
Well, a stock that did quite well in today's trading session was Crown Paints, up 9.3% to 38 shillings. What was driving that stock in today's session?
Well, we actually we may say it's a spillover from last week. Last week we ended up on the green, and I think this is just a spillover effect. We think that the same momentum is going to drive the stock all the way up. So we had a positive opening day. So I think the momentum is going to continue. Right now we're talking of only 35 points away from the 4,000 psychological level. So I guess with the rates coming down, here I'm talking about inflation, I guess that's going to send, that's going to bring in a bit of a positive market sentiment. And we believe that's what's going to really push the market up above this level.
What about companies like Trans-Century? That stock ended down 3.5%. What do you make of the moves that we saw in today's trading session for that stock?
Well, that's an interesting question. That particular stock has actually been trading below 25. Actually, that's like a half of its IPO price. And we think mainly the reason why that's causing the drag in its price performance is basically the huge amounts of money that they require to put in the projects that they invested in. And as we speak right now, they're required to put, at least together with its partners, about $300 million in Rift Valley Railways, where there are big investors there. And as well as when you look at the market, actually the talk in the market is that they consider the company to still rely on one company. They have about 51% shareholding in East African Cables that contributes about 50% of its revenues. So we think it's still relying on one company. So I guess from a market point of view, they'd want to see a company divest away its portfolio companies to an extent where they think it's going to kind of protect its revenue, and going forward we're likely to see a bit of return on that end. So I guess from the performance that we've seen, it's actually not one day's event. It's actually been a lagging performance for the rest of this year. I mean for the better part of this year. So I guess once there's correction on that end, then we might see a bit of interest coming forward for that particular stock.
Well, thank you, Rufus. That was Rufus Mwanyasi. He's investment analyst from Tsavo Securities, joining us from our studios in Nairobi.